You have the main plot of your story, and in most plots, basically you have the setup, you have forces in the plot that play out, and a conclusion at the end. And you want the conclusion to be satisfying to the viewer, to either resolve something or end something or change the status quo. And you want all the characters in the story to be an integral part of the plot. You want part of their personalities, make them give reason to why they're there and why they're playing a part. But you don't want the world that your story depicts to be one or two-dimensional. You want it to have real depth. And so you want to give a feeling that it isn't just the plot that is being played out. You also want you don't want it to have the feeling like nothing was really happening before your story began. As your characters enter the story, they're already in the middle of their lives, and they already have things going on, things they need to do. And the story itself, the real origins of the story, it's a good idea to have them start way before the story ever begins. And even though you're not going to tell a lot of the very, very beginning of the story, when you bring your reader into the story, the things that are going on, they're already happening. Some things have already happened. But in the beginning, the viewer gets oriented to what is already going on and kind of thrown into the mix when it's already happening. And then they can follow it to the climax or logical conclusion of the main plot. Now, one of the best ways to add depth to the story, now each character, you don't want them just to be automatons following through with the plot. You want them to have real lives. You want them to have their own lives, things that are going on. And the subplot is really good for this. And so you have the main plot, and on a piece of paper outside of the story you're writing, you've done a basic map of what happens in the plot so that it's really clear in your mind. And then what you can do is you can go and find the subplots. A really good way to start looking for them is to look at the two characters that are the most featured in the story. And are there things that happen between them? Do they have a relationship? And a relationship is always changing. So what is the story of the change in that relationship? And that is usually a subplot. And if you can find, for every character that's in the story, there are usually subplots about the relationships between those characters. And their relationship is different than what it was when the story began. And to have it, and so this is, you have the main plot happening, and then you have these subplots happening right along with it. And so you have this interwoven, all these different plots going on. And the viewer is most likely paying attention to the main plot, but is also interested in the subplots. And it's really helpful to write a more effective story if you're really clear about all the subplots that are going on. And you can use subplots to make your characters more three-dimensional. Because if they're thinking that they need to fix the boat from sinking, but they're also negating a divorce, then that's a lot more about what real life is like. It's going to be a lot more convincing. And it's easier to time and work with each plot separately to write more effectively. So you can map out the main plot, and then you can map out each subplot, and if you, on another piece of paper, think about each plot separately outside of the story, then you can make more effective decisions about what happens in it. You can be clear about what is the setup of each plot, what are the forces at play that play out in that separate subplot, and what is the conclusion or resolution, transformation, end, or whatever type of climax that particular plot has. And the thing about developing three-dimensional characters and a convincing world for your viewer to inhabit is about working with these complexities, and creating a three-dimensional character is not just about knowing what school they went to, what their parents were like, what their class background or financial background. It's good to think about those things, but to create a really convincing three-dimensional character, have them living their own lives. They're also living to fulfill your plot. They're also doing the things that need to be done to push that plot forward. But write them so that they're living their own lives. They have their own objectives. They have their own dreams. They have their own ambitions, their own needs, and to have this back and forth between who they're just trying to be for themselves and what they're doing and everything that pushes the plot to its conclusion is the dynamics that will create very convincing characters. And again, working with your story outside of just writing it, if you can have a piece of paper and draw lines marking out when in the story certain important things happen with each plot, when exactly the conclusion happens, what is the transformation at the beginning of each plot, what is the status quo, and at the end, what has changed? How are things no longer what they were before? I hope that was helpful. I make these videos to get the word out about my own story that I'm putting up free animation episodes to at my website at solomation.com. If you have the time, please go and check it out. And also, please remember to hit the like button, leave a comment, and I hope you have a good day.